What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am D-WIZZLE here with another movie review. Once again, before we begin, I just have to apologize if you hear my voice sounding a bit raspier than usual. I've been feeling a bit under the weather the past couple of days, so I'm just getting over whatever it is. I think it was a fever or something like that. But don't worry, I'm going to get through this review the best I can, and we're going to have a good discussion. But anyway, Wonka is going to be out in theaters in a few days, actually. So I wanted to go back and talk about the previous two Willy Wonka films. I've already talked about the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from 1971. If you guys haven't seen my review for that, I'll put a link in the description below so you guys can watch it. But we are continuing on talking about the remake from all the way back in 2005, directed by Tim Burton, called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Let's get into it. So if you guys have seen my review for the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you guys will know that I adored that original movie. It ended up being one of my favorite films of all time. I thought that movie was very creative and very imaginative. And Gene Wilder's performance as Willy Wonka, I think, is one of the most iconic performances in any film. I thought his portrayal of Willy Wonka was excellent. So when I heard that they were going to do a remake of it, I didn't care to see it. I really didn't. As a kid, that movie held such a special place in my heart that I didn't want to see a different version of that. I know that this is going to be closer to the original book that's also called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but I didn't care. I didn't really care to see that. I didn't really care to read the book because I loved that original movie so much. And also hearing that Tim Burton was going to come and direct this, I had split feelings about that as well because I was like mixed on Tim Burton at the time. I'm still kind of mixed on him right now, actually. But there's some things I enjoy from him, and there's some things I didn't. I know because I loved a couple of his movies, like Batman 1989 and Beetlejuice. But then a lot of his other stuff I have not been a fan of. Um, and hearing that Johnny Depp was going to come in and play um, Willy Wonka, I didn't know how to feel about that. I am a Johnny Depp fan, but I was afraid that I was going to see too much of Johnny Depp in his version of Willy Wonka. Now, granted, Gene Wilder put a lot of himself in the original version of Willy Wonka, but I felt like it worked very well for that character. I don't know if Johnny Depp will replicate the same magic. Um, but don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with somebody else coming in to play Willy Wonka, but I don't know, I just didn't feel like Johnny fit that role. And then when it came to the trailers, it didn't really blow me away either. It pretty much looked exactly what I expected it to be. It looked very much like a Tim Burton movie. And Johnny Depp did look kind of strange from the trailers I've seen. So I didn't end up seeing this in the theaters when it came out. I just didn't really care to see it. I ended up waiting till it came on VHS and DVD, and I think I just rented it from Blockbuster. Um, yeah, that's how unenthusiastic I was about this movie. And when I first saw this at home, I didn't like it at all. I I almost hated it actually. Um, it didn't feel anything like the original movie. I felt like it didn't have the magic or the creativity that the original did. It almost felt like a carbon copy of the original, but not as inspired. And yeah, I did not like Johnny Depp's performance at all. Um, so surprisingly enough, I haven't watched this movie since 2007, 2008. So this is the first time in years that I went back and watched this. Um, yeah, I know that there's a lot of people that actually do like this movie and they think it's a decent remake to the original. But me rewatching this now for this review, you know what? I'll say that it's not as bad as I thought it was when I was younger. I don't think this movie is awful, but I definitely don't think this movie is great. It's very average. It's I don't know. I still feel like it's not as creative or as imaginative as the original movie. It does feel like a carbon copy of the original. I mean, this is a remake, but it almost feels shot for shot. The only difference is that the aesthetic and a couple of the performances are different from the original. But I don't know. It just didn't feel as inspired as the original movie. And granted, yes, this may feel more closer to the book. Um, I don't know if I'm guessing that's true. But I don't know. I feel like with that original movie, with the liberties that they took with the original film, I don't know. It just helped to make that movie more memorable, more interesting, more exciting. Um, and I don't know. This movie just felt too. It felt a little too gloomy at times, especially how it looked aesthetically. Like it's trying to pop out colors, but at the same time, it has that weird gloomy filter that Tim Burton likes to put on his movies around that time. Um, I will say the production value is better, but that's something that I would expect. Now that it's a more modern movie. Given that it's 2005 versus 1971, so yeah, the production value is better, but I don't know for some reason, just like the way that the factory was realized in this, I don't know. There's just certain things I didn't feel like stood with me as much as the original film. What I will say is that one of the things I thought they did good in this movie, and that's arguably better than the original, is that I think that Charlie and his family is a little bit more fleshed out in this than it was in the original. I liked Freddie Highmore as Charlie. I thought he was really good. And then the rest of his family, like Helena Bonham Carter played his mother, and I thought she was pretty good. And they actually had Charlie's father in this too, played by Adam Godley, and he was pretty good as well. Um, the four grandparents, I think, are more fleshed out, especially like the other three that doesn't get as much development as Grandpa Joe. Like they actually have more lines to say. They actually have their own distinct, personalities. Um, because like in the original, they didn't really say that much. It was mainly Grandpa Joe, but I did appreciate that the other three actually were given lines, and a couple of them had some funny things to say, I guess. Um, and I guess they dove a little bit more into their hardships and their struggles, I guess. So I kind of appreciated that. As far as like the other four kids that is brought to the chocolate factory, the annoying ones like Veruca and Violet and Augustus and Mike, um, they pretty much feel the same as the original movies. Probably the only two that felt like they added a bit more to them was Violet. For some reason, they made Violet a martial artist and gymnastics, like she's beating up grown men, which I thought that was kind of odd, but yeah, that was, I guess, something to add more character. And then Mike TV, this time he loves playing video games, and he knows more about science, I guess, stuff like that, and technology. So that was that was pretty interesting. Veruca, I appreciate that this version of Veruca didn't yell as much as the original. She's still very annoying and she's still greedy and selfish, but at least she wasn't screaming her lines the entire time, I guess. And then Augustus was Augustus, pretty much the same as he was in the original. So, um, for the most part, the four kids seemed pretty much the same. Um, I guess I appreciated that they weren't trying to force this into a musical as much as the original movie, even though, the songs in the original movie didn't really bother me, but it did feel like they were trying to force it to be a musical. This one, they just had the Oompa Loompas singing. And I'm glad they didn't make Johnny Depp sing in this movie. But I guess I appreciate that it was trying to be more focused about what it wants to be. That it's like, it is just a regular film with a couple of songs here and there, mostly from the Oompa Loompas. So that was good, I guess. Um, Once again, I do think that the design of the factory is cool. There's some nice architecture, um, and the different parts of the factory. They did have some creativity with as far as its aesthetics, even though there's some parts of it that felt a bit more basic than the original. But as far as like, I haven't been used to seeing Tim Burton using this much color in his films around that time. So I thought there were some interesting ways that he was able to use color in this when we went to his factory. So that was kind of cool. And then one big thing that a lot of people say that they like about this movie is that we actually got a little bit more backstory with Willy Wonka as a character, and kind of breaking down how he well, kind of, not fully, but they've dove in a little bit of how he wanted to become a chocolatier and how he get his start a little bit, and his relationship with his father and stuff like that. With his father played by the late Christopher Lee, which I thought that was cool. It's always great to have Christopher Lee in a movie. May he rest in peace, but he was pretty good in this as well. Um, so my main issue with this movie is, weirdly enough, it is Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas. Um, they did not really work for me at all. I see what they were trying to do, but I don't know. It just felt extremely off in this movie. Um, Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka pretty much was as bad as I thought it was when I was younger. I hated his performance. I hated it. I don't think I liked anything about it. Um, and once again, I'm not expecting him to emulate Gene Wilder's performance, but I don't know what Tim Burton was instructing him to do. Like, this version of Willy Wonka is just so odd and weird and just like introverted, awkward, just very strange. Like, it just felt like some sort of weird Michael Jackson impersonation. I've heard that comparison many times, and I feel like that's kind of valid. Like, it just it just felt so odd, you know. What really struck me about Gene Wilder's performance is just how confident and you know how sure of himself that he is. That he seemed to be the smartest guy in the room, and this version of Willy Wonka, I didn't really feel that. It almost seemed like he was kind of a doofus, and I just didn't think that was interesting. I didn't think that was entertaining. I just thought that was weird. Um, and like, it almost just seems like he was psychotic for all the wrong reasons, because Gene Wilder's performance, it felt like he did have some sort of like mad side to him, but the whole time it felt like he was in control of his environment. He was in control of the situation, and it just didn't feel like Johnny Depp's version was in control of the situation. It just felt like he was just being so odd and kooky and strange, and I hated his voice. I hated his voice. Like, it just didn't feel anything like Willy Wonka. And it's a testament that after this point, Gene Wilder's performance is still very well, remembered, and nobody likes to talk about Johnny Depp's performance because it just didn't work. It just was very strange. I'm so sorry to say, like, I don't blame Johnny Depp. I think he was instructed to do whatever this weird ass performance was, because I know what Johnny Depp is capable of performance wise, but I don't know what Tim Burton was trying to do with this version of Willy Wonka. It just did not work for me. and like his haircut too. What was up with his haircut? Like, I don't. I just don't know what they were doing with this. Like, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. And then as far as like Deep Roy, as the Oompa Loompas, like they pretty much just cloned Deep Roy and made him all the Oompa Loompas. And I don't know. I did like how they did the Oompa Loompas as well. I didn't have as much of a problem with his performance. His performance as the Oompa Loompas was fine. It was more of an aesthetic choice because in the original movie the Oompa Loompas were orange with green hair. In this, they were just Deep Roy. They didn't really change the look of his face other than his hair, and then they made him really small, like smaller than what the Oompa Loompas were in the original movie. Like I think they went up to, I think the Oompa Loompas went up to their knee, like they were like alien-like small, and I don't know. I didn't really like that. I did like it, and then you just had them in these like jumpsuits with different colors, which I guess that was kind of creative how they did that. But I don't know. It's just that just really was off to me. And then the Oompa Loompa songs. I did not like the songs in this. It felt like the songs were way too auto-tuned, and it just was very, very off to me. That really turned me off from all the songs. Was just them auto tuning his voice with all the songs. It's just I didn't like that. And then let's talk about the backstory they wanted to add with Willy Wonka because a lot of people really liked that. And for me, I didn't think it really added that much to the movie. It really didn't. Um, I mean, yes, we got his motivation of why he wants to be a chocolatier because his father was a dentist and he didn't want him to eat any candy because he was stuck in this really, really crazy, brace thing that he had on his head, whatever. Which I think is a good reason why you wouldn't want your kid to eat candy if, like, he is in this crazy brace thing on his head and his teeth was really bad. So yeah, that's kind of understandable. But like at the same time, it's just like I don't. Why did we need to know this? I didn't really care to know about any of this. And one other thing, it just was kind of inconsistent seeing that his backstory that his father didn't want him to have any candy. Why would you let your son go trick or treating if you didn't want him to have candy anyway? That's very mean spirited too. Like I would just, if I really didn't want my kid to have candy at all, I wouldn't even have him go trick or treating. And then you end up burning his candy anyway. Like what the heck is that, man? And then so that causes Willy Wonka to want to run away from home and travel the world and become a chocolatier and learn about all the different candies. And he ends up not being able to go because I don't know, one of the I get he was trying to take a train or something, whatever, and the building was closed. So he went back home, and Christopher Lee literally just took his entire building because he was like in an apartment complex or something like that, or like a townhouse or something like that. He somehow took his entire townhouse away by the time he got back. And I'm just like, how did that even happen? Like, that's one of the things that kind of bothered me because, like, I know in the original movie that they blurred the lines between reality and fantasy. And I tried to keep that in mind when I was watching this. But for some reason, like, I started to question the rules of reality and fiction and science and fantasy. It's like this movie didn't know if it wanted to be more grounded or if it still wanted to be more fiction. It's like stuff like that that just thought was kind of weird. Like, is it supposed to be science fiction? Is it supposed to be fantasy? Is it supposed to be more grounded? Like, what is this movie supposed to be? And then there'll be some blockheaded stuff, like for instance, when Veruca was trying to get one of the squirrels as a pet, and she jumps the guardrail and tries to get the squirrels, and then all the squirrels end up assaulting her and testing her if she's a bad nut, and they're slowly starting to drag her to the garbage chute. And then Willy Wonka is trying to get one of the keys to open the gate so the dad can go get her. And it's like, why does the dad just jump over the guard thing? Because it's not that tall. He literally could just jump over it and get his daughter. It's like blockheaded stuff like that. And then Mike TV, when he runs to the when they're in the television room and he's trying to make shrink himself into the television, and he's running to the thing, and all the Oompa Loompas are just sitting there watching him do all this stuff. He presses the button, and the Oompa Loompas just sit there and don't do anything. They don't stop the machine. They just let him go. I mean, probably because they want him to learn a lesson. But like, why would they just sit there and let that happen? So that's the other thing that really bothered me. There was just really blockheaded stuff like that just didn't sit well with me. I don't know. But yeah, just the entire motivation of Willy Wonka I didn't really need to see. And there's still some questions that I had, like, how did Willy Wonka create this empire? How did he build the factory? How was he able to afford all of that? How did he learn all the stuff but with the candy, and how was he able to be all creative about that? The only thing they dove into other than the father stuff was that they actually explained the Oompa Loompas original place where they used to live, Loompa Land. We actually got a flashback with that, with Willy Wonka meeting the Oompa Loompas and making a deal. And I guess I kind of appreciated them showing that, but you know, like, if they're going to show backstory, like, can we fully see the backstory? They just half-assed that. So I don't know, man. But overall, I thought this movie was just okay. I guess I didn't hate this movie, but I did love it. This is not a film that I will go back and watch over and over again. Not as much as the original. I will watch the original many, many times, but this one, I don't know. It just kind of felt uninspired in moments, and Johnny Depp's performance as Willy Wonka really turned me off. And the Oompa Loompas, I did think was as good as the original. Like, everything else seemed okay, I guess. Like, the other performances were good, and the production value was cool, even though it did have that typical Tim Burton aesthetic. I think, once again, if Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas were better, I probably would have liked this a little bit more. But I don't know, that just fell flat for me. So overall, I will give Charlie the Chocolate Factory, I'll give it a C. And yeah, that's the best I could give it. Man, talking about these Willy Wonka films really makes me want to have the Wonka chocolate and the Wonka candy. This really makes me want to have that. I really hope they bring it back after this Wonka movie. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts on Charlie the Chocolate Factory. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? How does this compare to the original Willy Wonka movie? Is this a better adaptation of the original book? Did you care for that? Did you like Johnny Depp's performance as Willy Wonka? Did you like the Oompa Loompas? Did you appreciate the backstory that they added in here? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this review, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified of future videos I'll be doing. So I will be doing a review on Wonka when it comes out. So tune in for that when it comes. But that's all I have for you, Willy Wonka fans, and I will see you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.